I was like, okay, well, better run my dad's company now. I should have got my MBA. And I ended up realizing along the way that wasn't where my heart was.
Yeah.
And that I wanted to live a life that was authentic to me and not to fulfill anyone else's dreams but my own. Yeah. Because I did think that was the best way to live life and to live it as fully as I possibly could.
I think that we have a very similar story in that sense. I actually went to go get my master's.
Yeah, we all have one of those.
Right. And the thoughts that into that I was actually going to go work for my dad and ultimately like kind of do that for the rest of my life. And then I got there after, a couple of years, even though it's like, I love my family. It just, I didn't love that.
Hey, this is Chad Namiro.
And I'm Kelly Namiro. Welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast,
a lifestyle podcast where we will interview guests about wellness, business, and just about everything in between.
Our goal is to help you develop a lifestyle that promotes health, wholeness, and success. Through our conversations, we hope to inspire you to live a beautiful, full, and joyful life as you navigate balancing the chaos.
We hope you enjoy. All right, everyone. We have an exciting show today with Niki Soohoo. Niki is an actress, philanthropist, life coach, mentor, motivational speaker, and fitness enthusiast. She is best known for her roles in the movies Lovely Bones, directed by Peter Jackson, which I just told her was like one of my first nightmares as a kid after I read that book. Stick It, the gymnastics movie where she co-starred alongside Jeff Bridges, also known as the Dude in The Big Lebowski, great guy, and Bring It On, Fight to the Finish, the cheerleading movie, co-starring alongside Christina Milian. Sorry. Yeah. However, her mission, using her own words, is to inspire people to figure out who they are, who they want to be, how they want to live their life, what matters to them, what they value, and how they want to spend their time. What lights up their souls, how they want to contribute to the world, what success means to them, and what it feels like to live authentically. So ultimately, I think she wants to provide guidance to those and courage for those people to go after their dreams, essentially. And so,
which is really inspirational.
Yeah, of course. Is that how you would describe yourself, or do we miss anything?
Yeah, no, I feel like there's so many. I'm a dog mom too.
Okay, that's important.
So many roles.
Yes. But I think you covered a good majority of what I like to consider myself.
Tell us about yourself. You're a dog mom. I think you were married, from what I could gather, in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, just got married last year. Grew up in Orange County, so I'm a California native, and went to an arts high school in Orange County. I actually went as a dance major and then proceeded to go to UCLA also as a dance major.
Oh, nice.
And then ended up staying in LA, and now I live in beautiful Manhattan Beach and spend a lot of time at the beach. I love the community here. I think that's honestly why I chose to stay and live here, is because we are friends with all of our neighbors. Like, we hang out all the time. We play at the beach. We do beach volleyball. We go on walks. We bike ride. I love to be outside. I love community. So like, that's perfect. That's where I am.
We met in LA. So we went to the rival school across town in the slightly more dangerous area.
Yeah, my brother went to SC, so we have a split home.
A strong rivalry, of course.
So by the time you were going to college, to UCLA, is that point, did you know that you wanted to be an actress? Did you know you wanted to be in Hollywood?
So I actually started acting when I was in high school.
Okay, cool.
I did my first movie, Stick It, when I was 16. So I was a junior in high school, balancing my AP Chem test and my working on set with my stat teacher and, all that crazy training to be a gymnast, because it was like a gymnastics movie. Like, we trained 5 days a week, 6 hours a day for 3 months for that movie.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was a lot, but super fun. I mean, it was great. I never grew up actually thinking I wanted to be an actress. As I told you, I grew up a dancer, but I didn't also ever want to be a dancer. I just really loved to dance, and it made my heart feel full, and it was an outlet of expression for myself. But I didn't think that's what I wanted to do or be, and I kind of fell into the industry as an actress and got opportunities. It started to work out for me, and then I just continued to do it. into adulthood. I actually got my MBA at Chapman University.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
After UCLA, and I was like, okay, well, better run my dad's company now. I should have got my MBA, and I ended up realizing along the way that wasn't where my heart was.
Yeah,
and that I wanted to live a life that was authentic to me and not to fulfill anyone else's dreams but my own.
Yeah.
Because I did think that was the best way to live life and to live it as fully as I possibly could.
I think that we have a very similar story in that sense. I actually went to go get my master's in kind of.
Yeah, we all have one of those.
Right. And the thoughts that into that I was actually going to go work for my dad and ultimately like kind of do that for the rest of my life. And then I got there after, a couple of years and I was like, wait, this isn't like what speaks to me. Like I love health and wellness. I love helping other people and coming here and, even though it's like, I love my family, it just, I didn't love that. So when you think of that time in your life, tell us a little bit about like, one, how did you kind of start to notice the difference of like, this feels like something I should be doing versus something I actually want to be doing? And then how did you kind of take that leap? Like, was it scary telling your family?
So let's see. Like I said, I had already started acting when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So after going to college, it was kind of with the intention of like, one day I'll probably quit and I'll get a real job.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, my parents have probably been more supportive of my career and me like going after something wild than myself. I'm pretty conservative in my I felt like I was very conservative. I was like, no, I need to get a real job. I need to have stability and predictability. And they were like, but you finished college. Like why don't you just like go 100% into acting? I'm like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know. Why would you do that? And so they've always been like super supportive. It was very easy to like transition with them. It was harder for myself to really grasp that. I think there's also a stigma in LA about being an actor, and there's ups and downs in the industry, and sometimes you're working and sometimes you're not. And can you consider yourself an actor all the time? If you're working sometimes and not all the time. But once I started working for my dad, I would go into the office, and it's a regular 8-hour day, and I was always so tired, and I couldn't understand how people work 8-hour days. I was like, this is crazy. I feel like I need to take a nap every time, like every lunch, because I can't stay awake at the job.
I hear you on
my favorite part of the job is having lunch with my dad every day. Yeah. That was my favorite thing. And then I thought about it and I was like, man, when I am on set, they can go 16-hour days. And I'm like, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how long it is. It doesn't matter what I'm doing because I just can do it. And so that was like one thing that I started to realize. I also was given a mentor while I was in my MBA program. I recommend mentors for anyone and any person in anything, in any field. I'm like, to find them. They're so helpful. But this mentor happened to be a life coach. Mm-hmm. And so I was basically getting free life coaching while I was in my MBA. And I was actually quite young to be in the program at the time. So I didn't take advantage of it as much as I could. But she really helped me hone in on what made me happy. Yeah. And then after that, she helped me figure out a way to make my life around what made me happy. So she had me do like very simple exercises, like tell me about, 5 of your happiest moments, and where were you and who were you with and what were you doing and what's the pattern within all of those. Mm-hmm. So that you could find those things that kind of just lit up your soul. And then, we got to the point where I was like, obviously, like, I do like acting. I think part of me is just scared to accept it because it's so unpredictable and it's so volatile that I didn't want to accept it because it didn't seem like a good life choice. And then she would reframe it for me and be like, if you if you do stuff now, you create a lot of stability for yourself later because you get residuals, for all the shows that you do. So even if you don't work then, you have worked in the past, and it takes care of you throughout time.
Right.
And as I started to look back, I was like, you're right. I've never actually needed a real job because I started working when I was in high school. And so when I got out of school in like college and stuff, I just always had freedom to some extent. I didn't have to have a job. I always got side jobs because I thought I should be putting things on my resume, but I actually made a living or a savings for myself that allowed me to choose how I wanted to spend my time and energy, and then to live a lifestyle that allowed me to keep that lifestyle. So I lived below my means all the time because I understood the concept that if you're an actor, you don't always have money, so you can't just spend like you're always getting money. Because and so I was able to kind of just prolong that for a while, and I was like, you're right, this is a way to live. Like I used to, my schedule was like wake up and go to yoga and then go to the farmer's market and then do a couple auditions, and then I was like, oh no, but this is not okay. And then I was like, why is it not okay? This is a good life, and you created that for yourself, and you're fine. You do make a living, so why are you so worried? Like,
right. There was almost like a guilt around having the lifestyle that you had because there's like an expectation, right? Yeah. That like we like should be working. I think that like our parents' generation too, there's such like, I know when I was working for my dad, it was like, it was more, not that it wasn't about quality, but it was definitely about quantity. Like you are in the office from 9 to 5 and like, that's the expectation of like physical presence. And then like nowadays, whether it's like you're somebody who works from home or you're a working actor, like the way that it looks is so different. And so now I want to get into the fact that you coach people like in their careers. Do you help people kind of get around that guilt that you dealt with?
Yeah. Well, especially the kids that go to UCLA, because I think a lot of the type of person that goes to that kind of school believes that they need to become a certain thing to be considered successful or to like make their degree worth it or something like that. But I think I kind of hit this revelation time when I was about 25. And at that same time, a lot of my UCLA friends were quitting their jobs that they were already making 6 figures at because they were burnt out and unhappy. And I remember talking to one of my best friends who was my roommate at the time, and he was like, and I was like, oh man, I feel like I still haven't found it. I still haven't found what I'm supposed to do. Because at that time I finished my MBA. I started working for my dad. I didn't find it, and he's like, you're lucky. You didn't have to go through this whole like climbing of the ladder to figure out that you should just spend your time doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do that. And you're so lucky because all of us, we just quit and we just are now looking for jobs that fulfill us and don't even care if they pay as much. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting,
Yeah.
And so I try to like relay that to the students that I get to mentor, because I just, I think that was a lesson that I got lucky to not have to learn through time. But once I decided and fully chose, like, I'm going to be an actor and I'm going to embrace that and I'm going to be happy about it. And I'm going, because I used to not even let people call me that. Like my friends would introduce me as their actor friend. I'm like, please don't introduce me as that. I don't, I don't want that to be my title. That's not all of who I am. But I was somewhat embarrassed by it or not proud. And once I embraced it, then I was even more successful,
Yeah.
And then I was making even more money doing what I love to do. And I was like, wow, you can do it. You can create a life that you love. You can spend your time and energy doing what you want and survive, and if not survive, you're actually thriving because you're alive while you're living. you know?
And you're giving up on all of the stress that comes along with living up to everybody else's expectations but your own, which is like really freeing.
How do you coach folks? Because, you know, life is expensive. Living in Manhattan Beach is expensive, right? Like these are the realities. I'm a Virgo. I'm like highly logical. And so,
Yes.
you know, I just know myself, and I would be worried, especially with the family, like, you know, with it being so lumpy in terms of demand and just like not a steady paycheck. How do you overcome that yourself? And how do you coach others to overcome that, you know,
like a fear-based mindset almost.
Yeah, just to trust that, you know, doing what you love will ultimately create financial gain. I mean, that's challenging for many. And like you said, a good point about, you know, people that went to UCLA, probably the same as SC, they have a certain expectation of themselves. Yeah.
My answer to that is diversification. I diversify my sources of income, and a lot of them are through entertainment. So, you know, yes, I do movies, I do TV, I do commercials, I do voiceovers, I do print work, I do fitness. Like, I did one of the Beachbody 645 programs. I'm like, had a blast. But it's just, you know, I'll do like fitness conventions. I'll do anything that I love to do. That's basically my motto for life.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be in entertainment. It doesn't have to be, I'm also like a loan signing agent and a public notary. It was something that I was like, this seems easy. I can do it. And I did it. And I'm like, this is awesome, because it's, you know, there's a lot of people that buy and sell stuff, especially here in Manhattan Beach. And they're like, you know, easy job. And it's on my own schedule. So as long as I create a life that I have freedom and control over how I spend my time, and I like to do it, then I'm probably going to try it and see how it goes. And then I kind of put myself out there so that there's always people or jobs coming to me. So though I am a voiceover artist and have an agent that is constantly sending me out on auditions, there's only so much control that I have over getting that, right? So I put myself out on like websites like Fiverr, and I put my profile up, and I'm like, hey, I can do voiceovers, and a lot of international people will want content or something like an educational video with an English speaker, you know? And I'm like, I'm basically getting paid to practice my craft or to do what I like to do. And those jobs just come to me. I don't even have to spend time looking for the job.
Right.
I just try to also recommend that whatever it is that you do, if, like, let's say your main focus is entertainment, that hopefully your side gigs or your side things that do bring you life and enjoyment, even if it's dog walking, you know, like that's totally fine. As long as it doesn't take away your focus or a majority of your time so that you can't do the thing that you really wanted to do. Like, I do find that a lot of people, you know, they come to LA and they end up going to the restaurant business to survive on the side. And I think that it's great because you make a lot of money quickly, but you have to be very careful about falling into that world because it takes away from your, like, if you start taking the midday shift, then how are you supposed to audition? If you start doing those late bartending night gigs, then are you going to have the energy to wake up and go to the audition and, you know, do a good job in the morning?
Yeah.
But when you become a bartender, a lot of times you become a part of the nightlife, you know, like that's your life is nightlife. But is that helping you and setting you up for why you were here in the first place, or what your real intention of, like, is that fulfilling your true, you know, like what your heart really wanted to be doing?
Right.
Yeah. I like that. You're like taking the ego out of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would feel that like, oh, dog walking is like beneath me. Right. Like, I think that's the reality of society.
If you think it's fun, or even driving for Lyft and Uber, I think is an awesome, it could potentially be a really great thing that is on your own schedule. Yet, if you like to meet people, you also never know who you're going to meet.
In the car.
Especially if you're driving in LA, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing like a happy Uber driver. that, you know,
Right?
that like really enjoys it and the customer service of it and likes the flexibility of it. It is inspiring.
Yeah.
But
I think
there's so many things like that. Like there's so many side jobs like that you could write blogs and create content. You can be somebody's social media manager, you know, like whatever it is. Like there's so many ways to like that. Like as an actor, one thing that people kind of can look down upon is doing background work, especially if you've already been in stuff. But to me, I'm like, no, you know, like what's wrong with doing background work? Like you're getting paid to be in the environment of people that do what you do. You have the potential of being like bumped up, you know, to a principal role in a thing. And you also have so much downtime that you can literally be doing a second job while you're doing that job. Like you could be creating content while you're sitting around waiting. And then now you're making 2 times, you know?
Yeah. So you're like really about efficiency in terms of like how you optimize.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love efficiency.
So for those people out there who are like the overscheduled people, the people who are burnt out, the people who are like, you know, overworked, if you met someone like that, which I'm sure you do have plenty of clients who, you know, tends to err on that side. Like what are some tactics? What are some tools that they can use so that they can be efficient and like have these multiple streams of income, but not feel like they are overwhelmed or burnout?
I mean, time blocking is something that can really help you get a hold of how you are spending your time, obviously.
Yeah.
Which basically, you know, in your calendar, if you're writing out like your schedule, then you can literally see, are you making enough time for yourself to rest? Is this too much for a day? You know, like if you, let's say you booked a day and you're like, wow, that was too hard. I had 5 clients, that was too much. Then the next day, you know, you can only block for 4 and 1 hour is a rest. You know, and so you can like play around with those time blocks and see like, maybe you need a 15-minute rest in between each one instead of an hour rest, you know, at a certain point.
Right.
But I think being aware of how you spend your time is very critical in this, because I think people that get burnt out are just kind of reacting instead of proactively creating their day-to-day. They're like, oh, well, but then this happened, but then that happened. And then you have to prioritize what is most important. And so whether you use a calendar, I use a passion planner, you know, and Google calendars, but maybe you can only maybe the focus is 1 to 3 things to accomplish in that day.
Yeah.
And that's enough. And that's good. And you know, doing it all, I'm a big advocate of rest too. I am not the type of person, I'm not what is that guy? Like, I'm not Jocko. Like, I don't wake up 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And like, I don't believe in it. I believe that rest is like how you're going to live longer.
Yeah.
And letting your body recoup and like that, because all the things we need to do, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's a big part of it. I schedule that rest time in for myself. I understand, like, I'm going to let myself sleep until I naturally wake up, and then my day starts. And that's how, you know, and I'm going to fit everything else into it after that.
Yeah.
How do you coach people that are potentially more in the corporate world, or maybe they're filming a movie and they're having a really demanding schedule and they might be in less control than others? How do you coach people to deal with that when they're kind of beholden to someone else, if you will?
Like how to make time for themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you're saying if they have 8 hours already kind of taken away from them, then what do you do with the rest of the time?
That's the struggle,
I mean,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like
family.
for us, we think it's so easy because it's like I think all 3 of us manage our own calendars for the most part. Like both of us work from home. You kind of like, you're an actor and entrepreneur. So like like, I think that's a really great question. Like if there is somebody who is an actor who's on set, like for, 10 hours, they don't have the option, or somebody who's working a corporate job, 8 hours, like that's it. Like it's all sucked away. What are those people supposed to do for self-care? I think that's a great conversation.
It isn't often that I'm talking to people that don't have control over their main schedule or have like a lot of time blocked out like that. But if I were to coach someone on that, I mean, I would probably just say, like, look at the times that you do have free. And it's kind of it's the same philosophy. It's like, what is your top priority to happen in this day?
Right.
And where are you going to block that into the schedule that you have? Does it mean, like, what do you prioritize most in your life? Do you prioritize sleep? Do you prioritize working out? Do you, because sometimes you can't actually prioritize both. So where does it fall? Like, would you rather wake up early and get that workout in, or would you let yourself sleep and go to the workout after you finish the work day? And what is most important? If it is important for you to make it home in time to have dinner with your kids, then yes, that is going to take up a lot of time. But I do recommend that people always find some time, at least within a week span, to dedicate to themselves. It's very easy to get bogged down with the everyone else needing you. But if you don't fill your own cup, you're going to deplete, and you won't actually be able to give everybody else what they deserve, because you're not filling yourself up,
Yeah, 100%. So with that said, and, thinking about that perspective, I think that it kind of like is a good prompt for people to look at how they are spending their time, right? Like, are you on Instagram? Are you scrolling? Are you online shopping? Are you, going out to bars with your friends, or are you doing the things that you actually need to do to take care of yourself? Like,
I mean, that's why time blocking, if you actually do like every half hour of your day and be like, oh, wow, that actually took me an hour and a half to cook and eat lunch. Yeah. How can you optimize that if eating lunch is not your priority? Maybe you get a meal prep service, that then all you have to do is heat up for 2 minutes. Now you're spending 15 minutes eating versus an hour and a half, because it's not something that you care about. So
looking at where you're spending your time. Yeah. That's so like, I think time blocking is what really like allows you to do that. I think that's a really great tip for so many people. And we've had
efficient with the time. You said to be disciplined, which I'm not the best at, but like, if you want to get up and work out, we have kids, like my kids will be up a certain time. So if I want to get up and work out at 6 and be ready for them to be up at 7, I kind of have to go to bed at 10.
Yep.
So I might not be able to watch the sports game, which is hard for me, believe me. But that's kind of
but it's about
because
priorities.
You decided that your sleep was more important than you watching that game, which I would agree,
Yeah, exactly.
I remember a time in my life when springtime would hit, and immediately I would be searching for a new trainer or Googling all of the 7-day juice cleanse, 14-day detoxes so that I could get myself in shape for summer. And what I didn't realize at this time was that all of that was a complete waste of my time, of my energy, of my resources. And I look back on that just wishing for those hours and all of that energy and brain power back. The decisions that I was making for my body were coming from a place of punishment rather than from a place of love. And it wasn't until I started meditating and I started doing the work, the real work on myself, that I recognized that I needed to nourish my body with both movement and food and mindset work if I ever wanted my body to love me back in a sustainable way. And that's why the WBK membership, that I release meditations where I deeply connect you with yourself, and blood sugar balancing recipes to nourish you on a cellular level, and low impact movement to support the delicate balance of your hormones.
really gets you the results that you're looking for, where it starts to become a lifestyle. It starts to become who you are. I can tell you firsthand that both myself and my members, my private clients, all of us have seen the most incredible results from the WBK method. It's so different than your typical diet and a restrictive approach that we're taught from diet culture from a very early age. As a 33-year-old mom of two, this is the leanest I've ever been, the most energy that I've ever had, and the best that I have ever felt in my freaking body. And it can be that way for you too. So right now, with the code Balancing Chaos, all one word, BALANCINGCHAOS, you can get 10% off your annual membership for the WBK method and get new weekly content, plus a library of hundreds of workouts, recipes, meditations, with a 7-day reset and a 30-day challenge, all to get you started. So use the code Balancing Chaos, again, all one word, to start your 7-day free trial and see, when you love your body back, how your body starts to love you.
So if someone's kind of come to you for coaching, one of the things that we talked about offline before we started recording was like, you coach a lot of people in this space of acting, right, and entertainment. And so when it comes to things like getting an agent or getting a manager, like I'm sure that you've been through that, but like, how do you coach someone on like what the steps are? Like if you were to give us like some broad tips for anyone else that's out there that's looking to get into this world. And part two of that question is, do you feel like now that we have social media, is that something that you have to have like a real presence on in the entertainment industry?
I think that having a social presence is only helpful to you. I don't think that you have to have crazy numbers, but it does happen that people, especially lower budget things, lower budget commercials, whatever, they'll actually ask for your numbers, like your social numbers, when considering who they want to hire. Doesn't mean that they're going to hire the person with the highest number, but it does help if you do have a presence. So I don't have like a wild, crazy number. I have like 50,000 on Instagram, 50-something thousand on TikTok, right? And so in comparison to people that have millions, like it's nothing. But that is still meaningful enough that I think it has helped me in some cases where people are just like, oh, okay, like this is helpful, to some extent. Like at the end of the day, we're probably going to look at your skill and how you fit into the whole project. But I do think that having a presence is helpful. Plus, you can utilize social media to network. One of my best friends is so good at using her social that she will like create content around random things. Like she read one of Brandon Burchard's books and then did a review of it and then became friends with him. Like just because she did a review, he saw it, they started talking, and then they became friends. She went to his seminar, like really wild things like that, where people that were not reachable before are now super reachable. And it's off of genuine things that you feel or like, and you're just sharing with people. So if you enjoy making content, I think that it's a great way to invest some of your time. Like a lot of social media people are getting breaks in regular film and TV. And like, if you actually have created quite a following for yourself, that can be an avenue for you to actually break in without an agent anymore, which was not the case, a decade ago.
Yeah.
So, people are making good money off of social.
Yeah.
And they don't even need the traditional route. Like people are getting hired for commercials and stuff like that without even going the traditional route.
Yeah.
And it's because they're being found on social, where they have created a community of people that care about what they have to say, and what they have to say relates to this product that, it just fits. Why wouldn't a company target a person like that to be their representative? Like it just makes actually more marketing sense than just anybody, you know?
Yeah. It's authenticity.
Yeah, totally.
Like if I see a product that's being pushed by someone that wouldn't typically push that product, right? It's clearly just, a cash grab. I'll be less inclined to buy that product versus someone that I know and respect, and they kind of were using their product already and they maybe mentioned it in passing. I'm like, okay,
I think it's really like changed the landscape of, I thought it was just marketing, but it's like also of entertainment and Hollywood and how that whole world works.
Oh, yeah. Very much so, especially in the commercial world. I think it happens less in film and TV, but it still is being taken into consideration. In terms of like how to get started in becoming like a film and TV actor, I usually recommend people getting into background first, because it's such a great way to experience being on set and what it's like. Some people don't really know what it's like to do a scene 10 times, that takes you 3 hours or whatever it is. And some people wouldn't actually like that experience, but they never get to see it. They never really know what it's like to be an actor until they get to see it with very low stakes. Like, it's not often that you can just come be a spectator, for a TV show, like, the filming of a TV show necessarily. But getting into background will really teach you or show you what it's like without any stakes.
Do you need an agent to do that? Like,
is that like being an extra? Same thing?
Yes, it's the same thing. So there's a lot of background agencies that you can find online.
Okay.
And they will it's as simple as like you just take a picture and like give them your stats of like what your ethnicity is and your height and your eye color, stuff like that. And then when they need somebody that looks like you, then they can call you, or, you can look at the casting notices and submit yourself, or however that is. But one of the keys of that is that a lot of background actors have been acting longer than you. And so once you get there, you have a plethora of people to ask about what to do next, whether it's the classes to take, where to get headshots, some people, that is their living. They actually make a living. They actually make more money, they get SAG insurance off of just doing background. And so there's a lot to learn just from being in background. You can submit to background stuff off of casting networks, like something like a website that you can go to yourself, sign yourself up, put your own picture, your own profile up, and you can submit yourself. So there are a lot of options, but I think that is a really good start to just learn about the business in general. And then from there, once it comes to like getting, which even if you were to ask any of the people in background, like how did you get an agent, or do you have one, or have you been looking, and what have you done? Crowdsourcing is like one of the best ways to learn.
Back to the ego, just to tell a story I'll tie it back, I promise. Okay. But I remember I was younger, and at that time I was in college, and I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and I got called for jury duty. And like most, they complain about jury duty. Like, why would I want to do this and that? And I remember my sister came to me and she's like, well, you want to be a lawyer, right? And I was like, well, yeah. She's like, well, why wouldn't you want to see how the system works? Like, that's kind of the best experience you could probably get in LA nonetheless. And I was like, wow, that's a really good way to think of it. And actually, because of that, other things as well, but because of that experience, I kind of decided, like, I don't necessarily know
if I want to
be a lawyer, or at least a criminal lawyer, at that time. And so, I think, again, to me, it's like taking the ego out of it. And
I think that I think that so many people have this like stigma almost of like starting from the bottom these days, and then
get rich quick. It's like,
it's like
look at social.
Exactly, like get rich quick. It's like, oh, I'm gonna be a star overnight. Like, I don't have to put any work in. I can just post 3 times a week and like be this like millionaire.
Even social people they work really hard. Like,
I think that's a misconception, right?
Yes, I'm like people that do YouTube stuff. I worked with a girl who was a YouTube star, became an actor, like in film and TV, and she created her own web series, and I got to work with her. But I watched her continue to do her YouTube stuff while also shooting, with us. And I'm like, wow, not only you have to write it, you have to produce it, you have to direct it, you have to edit it, you have to color correct it, sound correct it, and then you have to schedule to like actually put it like when it's gonna go, and then you have to follow up with all of your followers so that you continue this like it's a whole thing. I'm like, they put a lot of work into it. Mind you, back in the day, like there were a lot of people that posted pictures of the booty and then that was all, and then they got it, but then they had a huge following. And that probably still does happen, but now it's so saturated that you really have to be making good content for people to want to follow you.
Yeah. And want to stick around. I think that that's like a really, really good point. And I think that there's no like quick scheme, no matter what the industry is that you want to get into.
I thought podcasting was easy until I started a podcast.
Yeah. It's like nothing is easy. It's all like slow, steady growth. So for those people out there who are, because, you were talked about your story about like working for your dad, thinking about like not necessarily knowing yet or being uncertain around what they're passionate about, like where do they start?
I would honestly try that exercise that my mentor had told me to do about thinking like what were some of your favorite moments in your life, and like what were you doing, who were you with, where were you, and finding like even if you were to ask your best friends or your close family member, like when do you think I seem the happiest?
Yes.
And then what am I doing? Or when do I seem the most like me, or the most joyous self of me? And even if you like personally think about those things, I think it would give you some insight into that. And I know there can be a really hard disconnect from that. Well, I love, throwing parties for my friends and decorating places, but I can't become an interior designer. Like I have a 9-to-5 job. Like when am I supposed to do that?
Yeah.
But what I love about where we are at in the world right now is that you can do it right now. That's the weird part, like because of the internet and because of the accessibility, you can do things on the side.
Yeah.
You can start just trying it out. Like even if you're saying, hey, my best friend is moving into a new place, I'm going to just help her decorate it. You take some pictures of that. You post it. Like, look, it went from this to this. And you just start like documenting what you love to do. A lot of times can really help you create a profile, a portfolio, for yourself about doing what you love to do. And that's a great start, right? Like that is how you would do it. Like, oh yeah, I did this to this, and maybe you start at a lower rate than somebody that went to school for it, but whatever, you're getting paid now on the side to do what you like to do. And maybe eventually, you end up either becoming really good or building a network that is going to help you get into the right rooms and with the right people that get you to that next level. Because really, a lot of times you do just need that one opportunity that lifts your career into a different trajectory. Yeah. And how prepared are you for that? Have you been trying, like, one motto that like I think is great is just start, just take a step, because you need just some momentum in some way. And at the end of the day, you love to do that. So why wouldn't you spend some time, even if it's as a hobby, you're doing what you love to do, but it also could potentially be a source of income down the road. Yeah. And if you're planning along for that, then I think that's pretty strategic and efficient time.
I think that we have to, like, if we want to really embrace the stuff that we like, our passions, and make that into our purpose. And that's a lesson that I learned as I transitioned my career, is that like, we have to let go of the mentality that it has to look a certain way. Because for a while I was like doing consulting at the company still while I saw like a couple clients on the side in the afternoons. And then like my son was napping in his swing, and like I didn't have it all figured out yet. But like you said, it's like just start, like let go of that perfectionist mentality, embrace being in the in-between and see what it turns into. Because at that point, like for me, I was charging like a 1/10 of the cost of what I charge people now, but like that's where I started, and then it grows.
And you enjoy your time there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you got better along the way. You know, so like it's just helping you build. I think that's great, and I think losing that notion that you can only be one thing, or that you only have to choose and be one thing is helpful, because that's what I used to think. You know, I was like, oh no, I just have to have a real job and I'm going to be a marketing person, you know, but I'm like, well, why can't you be a marketing person and an actor? Like, why can't you be this and this? Like, why do you have to be just one thing? And I think that's what's great about entertainment is it helps you a little bit more like want to try all the different things. You know, like many people are not just a commercial actor or just a TV actor. A lot of times they do a lot of things within the industry, and you know, So I'm like, yeah, that's true. Why can't I just do all the things that I like to do?
Yeah.
And so that's how I live my life now.
Totally.
I had a note to ask you this, but what are those 3 to 5 happiest moments of your life? I'm just generally curious, and I think it will help our audience, connect with you as well, and perhaps give them some guidance on how to think about.
Yeah. It's funny that you said that too, because when I was thinking about,
thinking of my own in my head, I was like,
what were my happiest moments? I was thinking about like the way that I looked at it when I was trying to, change my career and figure out what I like to do, was like, what are the things that like actually make me happy? Mm-hmm. So it was very similar. Like I was like, I like Pilates. I love to cook. I like testing out new recipes. I like helping people. So like those things were tangible, but I think that would be great. Share with us, like kind of like what were the things that made you happy so that you made that decision.
I can't remember all of them. I do remember one of them actually being when I booked Lovely Bones, because it was like it was a life-changing moment, you know? Yeah. I was going to shoot that in New Zealand, so I was going to get paid to travel, you know, and do something that I like to do. Yeah. And I got to bring my parents with me, and then another one was this like my high school girlfriend's wedding. And I loved it because everybody was just so happy. I was with all of my friends from high school, but my parents were there too. Mm-hmm. And then, so like what I took from that was like, I have this joy for community. So like this other one was like, I have this joy for travel and doing what I love. And then this other one was like, I have this joy for being around happy people and like other people that are happy. Not
in an office, like, or a cubicle all day.
And then another one was like really feeling like I had made a difference talking, like I would speak a lot, you know, whether it be to like the kids that I was mentoring, or because I volunteer for a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And we like talk to girls that have been in juvie, basically. Mm-hmm. And so like, you know, being able to help them do something and like find this outlet that they love, which is what I do, you know? Yeah. And so it's basically like teaching people what I have done, like on the path to what I have done to make their life better, and to see that happen for them was really fulfilling and happy for me. And so then I realized like all these things come back to, if I do what I love, then I can help other people do what they love, because you can only be a role model for what you are, you know, like you can't try to teach people to live a life that's authentic to them if you don't live a life that's authentic to you. Mm-hmm. You know, so I'm like, I'm going to live my best life, because that is ultimately what I want for everybody. is to like feel what it feels like to live every day with passion, to wake up and be so excited to work and to get to do what I want to do. And just, I have very low stress, even though I have a lot to do all the time. You know, I want to do it, and I feel happy and excited to do it. And I just personally feel very blessed to live the life that I have lived. And I want that so much for people to experience what that feels like. And I recognize that the only way that I can do that is by trying my best to do it too, you know? Yeah. And then sharing how I did it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like, there's something about helping other people that feels like a sense of like, it's so rewarding. There's something that is just so rewarding.
Gosh, to watch your mentees like become successful, you're like, oh my God, I just won.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And so I think that like thinking about that too, for people who are like looking for their passion, it's like, okay, what's the reward for you at the end of the day? Like what kind of like keeps the momentum going? And I know that that's the case for me too. It's like helping other people and seeing their successes and their wins is a huge one. So recognizing that is really big for sure. So tell us a little bit about your philanthropy work and all of that. Is that something you're still very active in?
So I'm on the board of a nonprofit called Awaken Arts, and we teach art to at-risk youth, which is something I was talking about. I usually work on the girls' side, but there's also boys too. And these are kids that are kind of like in a government-run program to have a second chance, but it's run by the military. So it's very like army-like, I guess, or, you know, it's very structured for them. And we come in and we provide their art credit. So they're basically on like the base camp, and they do all their school and everything at this place, and they live there for like a period of time. And then our program gets to come in and teach them art as like a tool and an outlet of positive expression. And so we teach dance, and we teach music, we teach visual arts, spoken word, or like, you know, whoever we can find mentors to help the kids and like whatever their specialty in art is, like we'll try to offer that if we can. But I've been a part of that for 15 years now.
Oh, wow.
It's that was the one, like I grew up, like my mom was a professor of multiculturalism and diversity. And so she was very adamant about me understanding like my privilege and how I needed to impact the world, you know, like you better make this place better than when you first got here, type of thing. And so I was always on a hunt looking for organizations that I resonated with. And when I found this one, it just like everything clicked, and I wanted to help, you know, so much, because it's hard to find organizations that not only align like vision wise, but the organization is actually run in a way that you also align with.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're always looking for money, you know, so it's hard. It's a hard struggle. But as long as they can keep to their mission, then whatever. But I also volunteer for another organization, and we teach business skills to people who are, there was a better way of putting it, incarcerated, I guess, but it's really neat. They are typically men, at least they think they're supposed to be like 18 to however old they are, but typically they're older, a little bit older, because they've been in there for a while. But we'll come in, it's called Defy Ventures, and we'll come in and we'll teach them business skills, and then they do a whole like pitch competition, and then they actually can win money if they get out, you know. But I just think it's fun. I think it's cool because a lot of them are actually born entrepreneurs. You know, they just chose to do it in a illegal way. But they have the mindset and the skills to build businesses. And so it's cool to get to incorporate things that I love. I love business and I love art, and to be able to work with other people that are not necessarily in the same position as me. I think it also has given me so much perspective on my life and helped me feel very grateful and appreciative of, what I have.
I think that's like that's the best like highlight that you made there through the whole conversation is like, I think that a lot of people not avoid, but like don't get into volunteering because they're like, oh, this is just going to take more of my time, or this is going to like be like overwhelming for me and my schedule. And the reality is that once you're doing it, it actually does give so much back to you.
Well, for what it is, people virtue signal sometimes with it. It's like kind of an expectation, and the reality is like you have to do philanthropic work around what you care about, and like there's plenty of needs out there. Trust me, you can find something that it is.
But when you do find that thing, like I said,
hers is children cancer, and mine is like the earth,
saving the earth,
environmental.
But like I think that like both of us know that like what you said, like when you're done with it and you feel like you've gained something versus like feeling like you've spent all these hours giving. It's kind of like the same thing as like working on your passion.
Cup.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like,
then you'll be filled.
I mean, I feel like almost always our motivation does always come back to like, as a human being, you're likely doing something for yourself. It's just nice that philanthropy also benefits someone else along the way.
Exactly.
But to believe that anyone is doing philanthropy just for that other thing is just
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just thought. But
So that's like I think that's the plug to people is like if you've been wanting to volunteer or you've been wanting to, do like, what are you passionate about? Because again, there's so many issues. And if you can find what you care about, or like what, not even like what you're passionate about, but like what aggravates you the most, like, or what makes you the most sad or whatever, like you turn it around that way. It's like, how can you help solve that problem?
And it doesn't matter if you want to try at a certain place and you don't like it, then try another place, you still help that day, and that was still great. You still spent time. I think that like that's such a good lesson to recognize that you hear about in like books and on podcasts and YouTubes and stuff. But so many wealthy people, at the end of the day, that's what makes them feel good, is that they were able to help somebody else. Like, that's all they're looking for. So why can't you just experience some of that along the way on your journey to wealth, and maybe, Sean Akers, he does that TED talk about the happiness advantage. And he talks about how
it's a good book.
Yeah. Well, it's just like people think that you need to hit these benchmarks in order to be happy. But he's like, if you were happy, you would hit those benchmarks a lot quicker, because if you change that psychology, you don't need something to be happy, but to be happy and do the things is actually going to make you more productive and effective. Because I do know a lot of people who are like, I don't have time or money to help other people right now. But they just don't realize the benefit to themselves that they'll get from doing it.
Totally. Absolutely. It's a plug for everyone to go and do something for somebody else. Try it out.
Yeah.
So we know that you are very multi-passionate. You've got a lot of stuff going on. So tell us what a typical day looks like for you, and how do you incorporate that self-care into your day-to-day?
Yes. Well, like I told you, the priority of mine is sleep.
Yeah.
So I typically sleep until I wake up. And then I take care of like the house stuff, take care of the dog, make sure my husband has breakfast. And then, once I get that going, then I'm like, okay, now I can go to the gym. I usually will go to the gym. And then it's like, I took care of them, take care of me. And then it's usually, I always go to the gym first because I like to shower and then put on my makeup and then work, because I hate having to put on makeup and then work out, get sweaty, and then have to do it again. Yeah. So I just try to like do all of that dirty stuff first, clean the house, do whatever I need to do. And then I start working from then on. Things may happen, randomly throughout the day, and it will I'll choose to go on a walk with somebody, my neighbor or something. And it might, so I might not be working consistently for hours on end, which that actually never happens probably. I do a lot of breaks, a lot of on my own time type of thing. But, like tomorrow I have voiceover, I have a voiceover job. That means I'm going to be driving up to Glendale, which is going to throw off the schedule, right? So then I'll just kind of readjust accordingly. Like, okay, if I have to be there by 11, then I'll probably be able to do a lot of my early morning stuff. But then I might need to move my workout after I come back, which means, yes, I will likely wait till the end of the day so that I can get messy and shower at the end and not have to put makeup back on my face.
Right. So you have a wind down routine too. Do you like, you and your husband do stuff together, or are you like, I need some space to myself?
I'm not really a space to myself person, because I actually get a lot of space to myself. When you actually in entertainment, you're almost always by yourself. Like you do all your work by yourself. Like if you were to go to an actual in-person audition, you drive for an hour, you see people for 5 minutes, and then you drive home for another hour by yourself. Right. So I spend a lot of time by myself. But usually my wind down routine, we'll eat dinner, and then and then after I clean up, I usually journal, just about how I'm feeling, or, what were my highlights of the day. I do go back to the Sean Aker thing. I like to say things that I'm grateful for, and I like to say things like the positive experience that happened in the day. And I think that's a great way to wrap up the day. And then my husband, when we finally get to bed, we'll play Wordle together before we sleep. So that's
like a nice way to connect, though, to have something to do
because we
together.
Wordle together. It's not, we're not competing against each other. It's okay, what word can we think of together?
Maybe we should do that. That would be fun. I like that idea.
It's so much fun. We used to have friends that we'd all group text, we got the word in 3 times, or whatever. Yeah. And they all fell off, and we're like,
we're still doing it.
That's what, honestly, something that simple is really what marriage is all about, in my opinion, especially when you have kids. You must have those moments, and they're not abundant, but they're critical.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure.
I haven't gotten to that point yet, but we had dinner with a couple, friends of ours that have 2 kids, and they're like, we wake up at 5 o'clock just so we can have an hour together. I was like,
it's
what?
real.
Why would you do that? Early just to sit together.
Once you have them, you will know. You will know. It's the truth. We schedule in a date night now, because otherwise you're like ships in the night, especially if you're working. But
just as importantly, you should be scheduling date nights for yourself. 100%. Moments and days and times that are dedicated to whether it's getting a massage, whether it's going for your walk and listening to music, or getting to the gym, or those are all important. Your relationships as well as the one with yourself.
100%. 100%.
I've recommended that book a few times, actually. It was recommended to us, or me.
Through the
one of our podcasts. But it's a really good reframing psychologically, and it was pretty impactful for me. So it's a good book. Basically, you're saying happiness leads to success versus success leading to happiness, which is what everyone seems to think, especially in American society. So this is great.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Most of my socials, all of them are just at Niki Soohoo, NIKKISOOHOO. That's also my website, nikisoohoo.com. To drop in my DMs and if you have any questions or whatever. pretty
Awesome.
reasonable.
Awesome. All right. Well, we will link all of that. Thank you so much for your time and spending an hour with us today. We are very grateful. It was lovely to meet you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's so great to meet you as well.
We really hope that you enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Wellness by Kelly. And if you're new around here, you can sign up for the WBK 7-day free trial where you can get access to all of my low impact workouts, blood sugar balancing, plant-based recipes, and guided meditations, all available on wellnessbykelly.com and on the WBK app.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also connect with us on social media at Wellness by Kelly. Drop us a DM for who you want to hear from.